been really fortunate to do a lot of racing in the moth, and I wanted to see if I could take the fun of sailing a fast, high-performance boat, but rather than use it for racing, take it on an adventure. I remember being a kid doing my first race. Sailing races are set up so that you sail to a buoy in the water, you sail around it, and then back to the start line. And I remember on this race I was going along and I'd sailed to the first mark, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, so I can do what I'm supposed to do and I can turn round and sail back to the start, and then I can sail back in a circle, or I can keep going and I can see what's behind that island that's over in the distance. I decided to keep going. As a child, I loved reading the Arthur Ransom books about the adventures of the swallows and Amazons. I think they were a large part of what inspired me to go sailing. The Moth is a small single-handed sailing dinghy. It has a pair of hydrofoils that stick out underneath it like aeroplane wings, and they mean that as it goes along they lift it up out of the water and it literally flies or foils over the water, and that means it can go much faster than a normal sailing boat can. Nothing like the sensation of foiling. It's just so much fun to be flying over the water. In the boathouse below the farm was the Swallow, a sailing boat, a very little one. If there had been no island, no sailing boat, and if the lake had not been so large, the children, no doubt, would have been happy enough to paddle about with oars. But with a lake as big as a small sea, a 14-foot dinghy with a brown sail waiting in the boathouse, and the little wooded island waiting for explorers, nothing but a sailing voyage of discovery seemed worth thinking about. The Swallow was a sailing dinghy built for sailing on a shallow estuary, where the sands were uncovered at low tide. Most sailing dinghies have centreboards, plates which can be let down through their keels to make them sail better against the wind. Titty had taken the little flagstaff up to the farm and had cut a triangular flag out of some canvas left over from the tents. John said, "What about a chart?" Titty said that as the ocean had never been explored, there couldn't be any charts, but all of the most exciting charts and maps have places on them that are marked unexplored. Titty's flag, with the dark blue swallow on a white background, was already at the masthead. Titty had hoisted it herself as soon as they'd stepped the mast after breakfast. John went aft to the tiller. Susan pulled down the boom until the sail was setting properly. Very slowly the Swallow slid away from the jetty. The Swallow slipped slowly out towards the mouth of the bay. She made at first no noise and hardly any wake. Then as she came clear of the northerly side of the bay, she found a little more wind, and the cheerful lapping noise began under her forefoot, while her wake lengthened out and bubbled astern of her. "Are we all right about jibing?" asked mate Susan, remembering a sad day the year before, when, running before the wind in another small boat, the boom had jibed over with sudden decision and given her a bump that had lasted for a long time. The sides of the island were steep and rocky. That little bay seemed to be the only place where it would be possible to land a boat. There was a gentle grumble and a scrunch, and Swallow's nose was on the pebbly beach. There was really not very much of the island to explore. It didn't take the crew of the Swallow very long to make sure that, though someone had been on the island sometime, there was nobody but themselves on the island today. Susan found a place by the landing beach where it was easy to stand on 2 rocks and dip a kettle full of clean water. The 2 lanterns were blown out and the white tents were part of the darkness. There was no light now but for the glow of the embers of the campfire. "Good night! Good night! Good night!"